Hi everybody, gotta love it when technology is happy to play along with you. So welcome to Unstoppable Entrepreneur Live. It is season 3, episode number 4. Really thrilled for those of you who are joining us. What I wanted to talk with you about today is where to show up online and how to show up online. Now, one of the big things that tends to happen is that people get really, good morning Ainsley, people get really worried about where it is that they're going to go, where it is that they're going to be seen, what platforms and this type of thing. So I really wanted to chat with you about that today. I guess one of the big reasons that this is really important. Good morning, Susie. Hey, hi, Shmara. Awesome. All right, now if we can just get that focus. Okay, awesome. So it's really, I'm being a bit of a nanner. I've got my wheat pack on my legs. I'm not feeling 100%. Good morning, Joe. All right, so bear with me if I'm snuffling and carrying on today. We're gonna push through and do everything that we can to make sure that you get this loud and clear. So can you imagine taking a big basket of bananas into your local shopping mall and throwing them at people? Right? Could you imagine doing that? You wouldn't do it, right? You wouldn't go and be like, everybody is hungry. I'm going to throw all these bananas at all of the people in the hope that somebody is going to say, oh, thank you so much. This is really what I wanted. Not everybody is hungry. Good morning, Sandy. Again, not everybody is hungry. Not everybody needs to hear about your bananas. Not everybody even freaking likes bananas. So it's really important that we're not kind of treating social media and the different platforms in the same kind of way. You can't just, you can, but if you want this stuff to work, we can't really turn up to every platform and approach it in the same way. And just, good morning, Joe, by throwing our bananas all up on there in the hope that it's going to resonate with somebody and things like that, all right? So we don't want to do the banana throwing. And I suppose that sometimes what can happen, and I guess some of the thinking that can happen, is that it's more important to be visible than what it is to be strategic. Now, I disagree with that completely. I think it's definitely more important. It's important to be visible, but it's more important to be strategic about the way that you're approaching these platforms, because inadvertently, if you go to a mall and you're throwing these bananas at all of these people who are not even hungry, they're probably going to get angry. They're probably going to start complaining. They're probably going to run the other way, like those, like the people that stand in the middle of the mall and, give out free samples and stuff. They're going to go completely over the other side and try and run away from you. And that's really unhelpful. So we've got to make sure that what we're giving away and what we're doing is, number one, platform specific, but also number two, you've got to know your audience. You've got to know where your audience is hanging out. So I wanted to chat with you about that today. The other thing that I think is really interesting is that so many people that I talk to, they're like, oh, but Nicola, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to say it. So I want to give you some frameworks today around how you can really be prepared for what platform you're going to play on, and for some things that you can talk about and some things that you can share. So we're going to look at that. Just looking at my notes, I think that's that. So, okay. So we've got the main, I like to think of them as like the main platforms that we're looking at. So we've got your Facebook business page. Now, if you are a person who wants to be more visible online, who wants to create a personal brand, now not in a buzzwordy way, but strategically, right? Whether you're a career professional looking to climb up the corporate ladder, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a business owner or a practice owner, whatever it is that you're doing, if you are wanting to connect with people on a bigger level and have an impact, you need to have a Facebook business page. I'm not going to argue with you about it. I know that there's a whole lot of hodgepodge around at the moment about people leaving the platform. It happens all the time, right? People leave the platforms and then the new people come on. So there's always going to be more than enough people for you to speak to on Facebook who will fit in your audience. It's really important that you have a business page. Why? Number one, because at some point in time, you are probably going to want to advertise. At some point in time, you might want to talk about your book. You might want to promote a course or a workshop or something that's going to be helpful for people. It's a place where you can share some of your IP or your intellectual property, your thinking, your thoughts, the way you process your information. It is a critical platform and you have to have one, right? If you don't think you do, stop it, you do. You do need one. The other place that you probably want to have a presence on, but depending on what you're selling, you may use it a lot or not as much, is Instagram. So you've got to have a presence on Instagram. You probably want to have a profile on LinkedIn. Now, there are some different options in LinkedIn. I would go and create the profile, start building some connections and things like that. I'm going to talk in a moment about each platform and how it operates differently and how to apply what we're talking about into each platform. I just want to first of all mention the main ones. So LinkedIn is a place that you need to have a presence, but not unless you're selling directly to corporate, or if you're selling business to business, you may want to think about how much time you spend in there. The other thing that you need to have is you have to have a website. You've got to have a website. I don't particularly care at this point in time if you don't have one and you need to have one. You can go and build it on Wix. You can go and build it through one of those crappy website builders that are often offered through the hosting companies. I don't care. Just get a website up and you've got to have a blog on there. You've got to have a blog. You've got to have an About Me page. You've got to have a testimonials page and a place where people can give you their information and get something in exchange for free. So something of value that solves their problem, right? So they're the main places that we've got to have an online presence built around. So one of the things that is going to work on each platform, and I find it easier on some than others to be able to implement this, and this is around storytelling. Okay, so what is it that really helps people to connect with you? Now, I know that it's around the stories that you share. I know it's around you guys really knowing that I've poured my blood, sweat, and tears into this business. I've done the hard yards. We've been close to broke a few times whilst I've been building this thing. You know, my husband is not rich. There was no silver spoons. Nothing was handed to me. It took me 18 months of making no freaking money to work out how to use social media and actually get it working. So, you know, I think that those kinds of stories, not to mention a lot of the other really crappy things that have happened over the years, you know, I know that really helps you guys to understand that I get it. You know, whilst I might not be in your exact situation, living your exact life, I know how challenging it can be to do this kind of stuff. And I also know how joyful and liberating and inspiring it can be as well to do it, and how helpful it is for people. So stories are a really, really important way of you being able to connect with your audience. So, and like I said, I find it easier in some platforms versus others to be able to do this. I've been playing on Facebook since, I know at least since probably 2008, I think, maybe 2009, and using it for business, particularly this business since 2010. Before that, I had a jewelry business that I was using this for. So I guess some of the kinds of stories that you would look at telling people is around your journey, how you got to where it is that you are now. Now, a lot of people say to me, particularly if they're newish to consulting or coaching or building their business, sometimes they'll say, oh, Nicola, but I'm not even far enough along yet in order to be able to share stuff. Well, you are. Because if you think about your audience, most of the time, and this is a whole topic around niche, which we're chatting about that, I think, in one of the upcoming episodes. Niching and working out where your audience is, a lot of the time, it can be easier if you're having trouble with this, to think of people who are maybe 12 months behind where you are now, or 3 years behind where you are now, or 5 years behind where you are now. Exactly, Susie, sharing your why. So if you're talking to them and you've got some inklings around what they're going through, what their trials, their tribulations are, their fears, their insecurities, their uncertainties, their goals, their dreams, their desires, all of those things that they want, it makes it a lot easier for them to be able to relate to you. Because one of the big things that happens, if you think about industry leaders, if you think about authors, coaches, people that you aspire to be like or that you look up to, often they can feel really, and I'm thinking about some of the celebrities or musicians, music artists, you can be thinking that they're unreachable, right? They're untouchable. They're so far removed from your reality. And that can, like on social media, some people can really position themselves in that way, where I'd like you to consider if we were to flip that around the other way and really have you feeling accessible, relatable, and real, what that might actually do for the audience who's following you. Now, I think that Facebook is one of the most simple platforms to be able to do this. We've got a massive audience. People on Facebook are generally killing time. They're sitting there, they're being distracted, they get the live notifications and like, oh yes, I'm gonna go and look at that. Or something will come through their feed, and I don't know about you, I know for me, I can kind of get sucked into like the black hole of time, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, like here we go, flicking, and it's like, oh my God, there's half an hour gone. So if you can be the source of that distraction strategically for your audience, that's going to help them to get to know you, right? So Susie's touched on something really awesome, and I don't think I mentioned that before. You mentioned it. Share your why. Talk about why you're doing what you're doing. For me, it's around financial independence and really empowering as many people as possible to create financial independence in their life. Now, a lot of people are like, yeah, that's really awesome and whatever. For me, my history, I was previously in a domestic violence relationship and it was really shit, quite obviously. And some of the big reasons why I found it so hard to get out was around this whole money thing and the power that can be created as a result of all of that. And so for me, there were lots of times over the space of 4.5 years where I was like, oh, I've got to get out, but I didn't. I've got to get out, but I can't. I've got to do this, but I can't. Because I didn't feel like I had the resources to be able to do what it was that I needed to do. And I don't think that anybody should be in that I don't think that anybody should be in that kind of position ever. And I really made the decision, finally, once I got out of that I would never, ever, ever be financially dependent on another person ever again in my whole entire life. And I don't think that anybody should be long-term financially dependent on anybody else at all. So, that's a really big driver for me. Another really big driver is that I want to show my kids that they can do whatever it is that they want. If they want to play within the system, then that's awesome. Go do that. If they want to build their own life, then that's awesome. Their own business, they're like entrepreneurial, whatever, like go do that. That's awesome. Just don't do things because it's the way that we think that we should be doing them versus, following your heart, following your dreams and things like that. So, that to me, I probably don't, I don't talk about that stuff very often, not because I don't, it's just, I don't know, I just don't talk about it very often. It's really kind of funny. It feels like it's a whole other person that lived through that stuff. And, sometimes I forget that is still kind of relevant to why I'm doing what it is that I'm doing. So share your why, because there will be people who, and your why there will be people who will relate to that. Your why might be around just making as much money as you possibly can, which is totally fine. It might be around being location independent. Brilliant. Like, there is no right or wrong here. It's just whatever it is for you, without any kind of judgment. Talk about that and talk about the motivators. And then people can go, oh, right, so that kind of really makes sense. And yeah, like, I hadn't thought about things in that way. The other thing that can really help with is you getting out of your own way and sharing your stuff online, right? Because if you are, hi Helen, if you are driven by this bigger thing, which might be money, it might be impact, it might be visibility, it might be fame, it might be around building a massive profile, it might be around being discovered, it might be around creating charities and foundations. Whatever your why is fine, it's great, it's awesome. That can be used as the driver for you to get out of your own damn way. Because often what can happen is people are like, oh, I don't want to go out there on Facebook today because my hair's not fabulous, or I've got a bit of a cold, or I have a cold sore, or, you know, whatever reason or excuse that you can come up with. You can use that why as the driver to actually get out there and do it anyway, no matter what it is that's going on in your world. So it's a really important story. Thanks, Susie, for bringing that up. Really important to share that. Some of the other stories that you want to talk about are the wins that you have had along the way. Now, if you think about a really awesome movie that you have seen, there's usually 3 sections to it. There's the setting up of the story or the call to adventure, and things like that. Like for me, I was working my business at the side of my corporate job, and I was like, you know, there's got to be a way that I can do more of this and have more fun and have more freedom and flexibility, and I wonder what would happen if, you know, ... right? And then you've got that middle section, which is usually where everything turns to shit, or you have some really big wins, and then you get smacked across the head and like, oh my God, the last 3 years of my business have been like that. There's been some incredible wins. There has been some smackdowns, let me tell you. And so like you've got that kind of like middle section that you'll share. And then there's, okay, so like think about the movies, like that's what happens in there. And then the end, like that final act, is really around the hero coming through, you winning, you being persevering, and you becoming successful in whatever way that looks. So think about the different parts of your journey and how you can share the stories along the way that demonstrate those things. Something else, if you think about your audience, and if you're thinking about, all right, I'll give you an example. I was talking to a coach this morning, a coaching client of mine, and we were talking about a workshop that she's about to run. And I said, some of the stories that you want to talk about are some things that people have got going on in the back of their heads, right? So, for example, what if this doesn't work? So, in your life, in your world, in your career, in the thing that you're doing, talk into that. Talk about those times that you were worried about when things wouldn't work. Talk about the times and the things that happened when things did work. Talk about the times where you didn't probably have the money to do X, Y, Z, but you made the decision to jump in and do it anyway. When did you take a leap of faith? When have you thrown yourself in and just gone, you know what, sink or swim, I'm going to make this work no matter what. So like think about those stories. Now, a lot of those types of stories, most people think, oh, I can only share those on Facebook, right? Because LinkedIn is very professional. So think about the story that you can tell in your Facebook page that relates to your audience and tell it. Now you can tell it on video, you can talk about it in text posts, you can talk about it through imagery, you can set a whole story theme throughout a week and put a different post up each day that has them tuning in for the next installment for the next day, and kind of build a bit of suspense and theater and creativity around that kind of thing. You can also share client stories. You know, so long as you're not an allied health professional or something like that, in which case you would talk about the person and the actual steps, I believe. So just be really careful around your industry and the way that you can share that kind of information. Over on LinkedIn, people are slowly becoming used to people posting videos on LinkedIn. They're becoming a little bit more used to people sharing a bit more about themselves over there. So I think it's a really awesome time right now with the way that platform has evolved a little bit, with the way that we can tell some stories in there. Now, the posts are limited by the number of characters that you can put in, but you can go up and post an article that explains what it is that you're doing. You can go and post a video up, so long as it doesn't go for more than 10 minutes. You can go and post a video up and share your stories in there. Think about the result and give them some action steps in there, particularly in LinkedIn. Like, they want to know, what is it that I can do right now to get to progressing along the way? Okay, so they've got a bit of a shorter attention span on LinkedIn, and they want to know that it's going to be of value. Okay, so if you're going to do video, make sure that the text that you put in the post above the video kind of pertains to the content that you're sharing. Good morning, Jeremy. So that's Facebook and that's LinkedIn. Now, Instagram is a bit of a different beast. So if you're in a service-based industry, and like this might be coaching, it might be training, consulting, whatever it is, it can be a little bit different posting things in here. So what I would be looking at is, how can you tell the story of you through the images that you're sharing? So what this will do is that this will help you to really demonstrate from a picture perspective your journey, your values, and what's important. So for example, my skeleton structure for Instagram is around lifestyle, because I live in a place where there's more sun than Queensland. It's not warmer in winter than Queensland, which is a bone of contention. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. So lifestyle, we go walking every morning. I take a photo every day, most days, of us walking around. It might either be of me and the kids, or my husband and I, or the scenery, depending on what's going on, because that demonstrates lifestyle. It demonstrates freedom. It demonstrates health and well-being and balance, right? Which is, I'm all about that. I'm also very much about walking your talk, right? So I like to share through pictures what my life is like. So we do that. I'll often post up, well, sometimes I'll post up photos of me working, like just doing whatever it is that I'm doing, or the kids, or I get my kids on the other end of my phone, and I'm like, all right, guys, here's my phone. Don't tell me when you're taking a photo, just kind of be a little bit sneaky about it, right? And take some photos, and I'll use them. So why don't you do that as well, or get your partner to be in charge of your phone? So you can do that. And then you can also post them. The other thing that I do is I post picture quotes and quote graphics and things like that. Again, I'm all about motivating and inspiring and helping you to get out of your own way. So I post different images of that type of thing. So I tell the story through picture. You've got to be on these 3 platforms, okay? And you've also got to have your website up. So on your website, again, it's slightly different in the way that we use that, because we've got your blogs as a place to tell stories, to educate, motivate, and inspire. You've got to have an About Me page that tells people a bit about why they should even listen to you, but make sure you're talking directly to your audience. One of the big things that I would not do on your website is talk, good morning, Jen. Long time no see. One of the big things that I would talk about on your website, or in your About Me page rather, is tell them about why they should listen to you. Don't say, this is why you should listen to me. Just make sure that your audience feels like they're in the right place at the right time, and that you can actually help them solve whatever problems it is that they're having throughout what's going on in here. So they're the 4 main ones. Now, Twitter, I'm not really sold on Twitter yet. I'm sort of practicing and playing with that a little bit. I'm experimenting. I'll update you on that. One thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to have all of the tweets that go up being auto-fed from other platforms. You can have some of that, particularly if you're trying to increase the content that's going up on there. You've also got to put some organic kind of posts up on there as well that aren't auto-feed. Hi Joe, that aren't auto-feed from all of the other platforms. There are some Twitter feeds that I've audited for people, and every post is an automatic Facebook post, auto-fed from Facebook or auto-fed from Instagram. A few things that happen there, and this is the same actually if you've got it going from Facebook to LinkedIn or vice versa, I would stop doing that. Okay, I would seriously stop doing that because it comes up with the other platform links. And if that's all you've got going on in your feed, nobody is going to engage with you. That you might get followers, but nobody really looks at it. It just looks really, yeah. Okay, so there's a platform called Later, Later. I think it used to be called Latergram. I think it's now later.com. I use that for Instagram and Twitter for scheduling some stuff. I like to use Hootsuite. That's where we need some new coffee. Hootsuite for LinkedIn. I don't use Hootsuite for Facebook because it comes up with the posted by Hootsuite thing, and I think that looks like shit. So don't do that. I do use Hootsuite though. I've actually just started using Hootsuite for some LinkedIn posts because it just looks like I've gone in there and I've just put the post up there and there, like naturally, versus it being scheduled content. So there's some systems that you can use or some platforms that you can use for being present across platforms. Now, what this means, guys, for a lot of it is that if you write one story, right? Let's say that you write a story that you're going to share and let's say it goes for 4 paragraphs. You can go and put that 4-paragraph story on Facebook. You can pull some of that out and schedule it into Twitter. You can use all of those 4 paragraphs on Instagram for whatever image you're sharing that on there. You can probably use that if you're going to start micro-blogging on your website, right? And so that's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, website, right? So you can use those 4 paragraphs in 5 different places, which I think is freaking awesome. So I know that, but you might have to tell the stories in a slightly different way, right? So you might have to just tweak the content and the way that it flows for LinkedIn so it's a bit more businessy. And, Facebook is going to be a little bit more chilled and relaxed. Instagram, you can pretty much use the same kind of story structure as you do on Facebook. And then Twitter, it's going to be like a little bit more short, bite-sized kind of pieces. Bottom line, no matter where you're showing up online, so no matter any of those platforms that we've talked about already, you've got to make sure that there is an easy way for people to access more of you. Now, that means that you need to say to them, not say necessarily, but have a way for them to be able to opt in. So on your Facebook business page, there is a call to action button that is directly underneath your cover photo, and that button can be message me, shop now, find out more, download, request a booking. I can't remember what all the options are, but you can have some kind of call to action in there. All right, so shop now could be the thing for you, or book a session or something like that. So that's easy to do. On Instagram, you can put a link in your bio now I wouldn't put the big long link in there. You can go to Bitly and create a shorter link and have them go to a landing page. Now that is a place where they can access something for free in exchange for them giving you their name and email address. In Europe, please make sure you're following the GDPR things, and if you've got any European people or if you're marketing anywhere, if anyone from the EU is finding you, make sure you're following the GDPR. I'm not going to talk about that today because that's a freaking minefield of all the things. So just make sure that you're able to give them something in exchange for their name and email address so that you can look to build your email list, all right? If you're posting on Twitter, you want to have a way for people to learn more about you. So have your website links in there. Now, something that I'm going to start experimenting on, and I'll share with you guys later on throughout the next couple of months how it goes, will be around direct messaging people from Twitter and looking to actually grow my list through that way. But I'll chat with you guys about that when I actually have some data to share. On your website, again, a way of them being able to access some resources from you for free, that solves a problem. So the overarching thing here is that we want to build relationships with the stories that we're telling, with the content that we're putting out there, and being relevant. We also need to have a way of someone being able to take more action with how they can learn from you a bit more or get to know you a bit more. We also want to make it really easy for people to be able to request a consultation with you or buy your product or buy your program or buy something from you. All right, so we've got to have all of these pieces in place. So that's really what you need to do in terms of showing up. Now, in order for you guys, I know that probably sounds like it's a lot of work. So let's just bring it back down and make it really super simple. If you don't have much of a presence yet, or if you don't have much of a following yet, I want you to make sure that you have your website for the reasons we've talked about. I want you to make sure you have a Facebook business page, and that's not negotiable. Then I want you to decide whether or not your audience is, good morning Janine, whether or not your audience is mainly on LinkedIn or whether you think they're on Instagram. So website, Facebook page, and then you pick LinkedIn or Insta. It's up to you. And I want you to focus on helping people to get to know you, right? Helping people to learn a little bit more about you, helping people to understand that you weren't born fully formed in the shape that you are right now, that it's actually taken a bit of a journey for you to get to where you are now. Just be real, be really super real so that people can feel like you're relatable, not like those celebrities that, used to feel. I think they feel a little bit more real now. It was like they're just so far out of our world. So make sure that you're doing that. And make sure you know your audience, okay? Because nobody wants to have a bucket load of bananas thrown at them in the middle of a shopping mall when you're not even freaking hungry. All right? Awesome. So please let me know that this has been helpful for you. If you have questions about this, let me know. Awesome. Janine says, have to watch this later. Need to get prepped for a speaking gig. I'm all microphoned up Madonna style. Oh, nice. You should strike a pose. There's nothing to it. Vogue. So awesome. Great to have you guys on. As I said, if you have questions about this, let me know. If you have got ideas for stories and you're not quite sure how you might structure it, let me know. I think you know me well enough by now to know that it would just be really awesome to be able to help you. So share your stuff. Let me know. Have a rocking Tuesday. I'm going to go and finish my coffee and have some hot water and lemon and soothe my throat. Have an amazing day. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.